on the slate for tonight for the crew, besides the MPLM ingress, is going to be getting ready for tomorrow's EVA. The main tasks there are going to be that Danny Olivas and Nicole Stott, who are going to be going out the door tomorrow, are going to be doing a camp out in the station airlock tonight to get their bodies ready for the EVA tomorrow. Also, on the station side, we are going to be venting the nitrogen lines to the ammonia tank assembly, which is part of their EVA task tomorrow. As far as tomorrow's timeline goes, the highlight's going to be the EVA, of course, but with 13 crew on board station, we're able to do a lot of things at the same time as doing an EVA. So with the MPLM berthed and the hatch open later on today, tomorrow we're going to get on with the transfer of the significant items in earnest. Most notably, we're going to transfer the Colbert T2 rack into Node 2, also the crew quarters rack into the GEM module, as well as the Node 3 ARS rack, and that'll also go into the GEM module. So that's the summary of where we got to today and what we have tomorrow. I know there's been a lot of talk also about attitude control. During the docking yesterday, well, first of all, 2 days ago, we had a shuttle forward jet possibly leak, and so we closed that manifold, which took away the shuttle vernier jets away from us for the rest of the mission. And those jets were what we were planning on using for mated attitude control whenever we had to do maneuvers. Without those jets, our next option is Russian attitude control, and we used that yesterday after the docking to do the maneuver from free drift at docking back to the minus XVV attitude we have for the mated mission. However, there was larger than expected prop usage during that maneuver, so now the teams have been going through the timeline and trying to work options that, for undock specifically, that don't require the use of the Russian thrusters. A couple of the options that we're looking at is one is docking from minus XVV, undocking from minus XVV instead of the planned plus XVV, so that whatever maneuver we do is not nearly as big. And then we're also looking at using the shuttle primary jets to do the attitude maneuver to either minus XVV, or if we can do it all the way to the nominal undock attitude of plus XVV. There were a couple of other instances in the timeline where we were counting on shuttle attitude hold capability, and now, instead of that Russian attitude hold capability, one of those is the nitrogen vent that'll be occurring this evening during the timeline. The good news is that for attitude hold, it doesn't require nearly as much propellant as it does to do an attitude maneuver. And so we're still going to use Russian propellant this afternoon to hold attitude for the nitrogen vent. However, we are working an option to use the momentum manager with just Russian jets to do the desaturations if necessary. Team's still working that, so I don't know if we're going to get that plan potted in time for today or if we're still going to do Russian attitude hold. And then the other event was we had a water event planned 2 days from now, and we have canceled that water vent, and therefore we won't need Russian attitude hold for that, and we're just going to go ahead and bag the water. Most of the dock mission is done, as you guys know, on control moment gyro, momentum management. It doesn't require any propellant to hold attitude. So it's just a couple instances in the timeline, with the biggie being the attitude maneuver to undock at the end of the mission. So we still have some open work on a couple of those items, but that's where we are right now. EVA highlights tomorrow is we're going to be removing the empty ammonia tank assembly from the port 1 truss, and then in EVA 2 we'll be installing the new one that was delivered on the shuttle. And then after they get the empty one removed tomorrow, then they're also going to transfer a couple of the Columbus payloads back into the shuttle payload bay for return. And those are the UTEF payload and the Missy payload. That's pretty much the highlights of today's timeline status and tomorrow. Are there any questions?
All right, we'll start here with Bill, Gina, and Robert, and then we'll go out to the phone bridge. Go ahead, Bill.
Bill Horowitz, CBS. I have three quick ones. On MPLM, I know they're ahead of schedule. Once they get in, assuming that's around midnight if they're ahead, I guess, or 11 or so, what do they do before bed? Anything at all, or is it just outfitting the vestibule and just powering it up?
That's mostly just outfitting the vestibule, powering it up, checking the atmosphere, and then tomorrow is when they'll get into the transfer operations.
Okay, so you wouldn't expect them, if they're ahead of schedule, actually starting transfers tonight?
No.
Do you know how much prop the Russians used? Leroy didn't know. He just said it was more than the 30 kilograms that they had budgeted for the mission.
We have heard two different numbers, and I haven't heard which one's right. We heard that it might be as much as 330 kilograms.
Wow. And what is the downside to
and back to the budgeting part of that. My understanding is that that may not be that much more than is expected, but that they just didn't budget for doing the attitude maneuver.
I got you.
Because the shuttle was supposed to do it.
Right, I understand. What is the downside to a minus XVV undocking in terms of anything, planning, fly around? I mean, what don't you get from, because that seems like an awfully easy solution to this.
Well, that's more in the shuttle team's world to answer that. We can do it either way, and it's just different than the planned undocking attitude. So they're going to have to evaluate whether they're going to do the fly around or not with that. They're also going to have to evaluate, since they're going to be using, if we have to do shuttle primary thrusters to get into the undock attitude, then that's shuttle propellant we weren't planning on using as well. So they'll have to factor in those impacts to see if that changes whether we're going to do a fly around or not, for example.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Gina?
Gina Sinceri, ABC News. How are the other systems on the shuttle working? Cedra, the urine processor, the toilet. How are those systems working?
Oh, well, those systems are on station, not the shuttle.
I'm sorry, station. I apologize. I'll blame sleep deprivation.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, all of those systems are working really well. We have a very good station vehicle right now, and so we're very happy about that. We have had a few of those problems over the summer that we've had to work through, but right now everything's looking good.
Thank you.
Come over here, John, and get Robert. Thank you.
Rob Perlman with CollectSpace.com. Since they moved in today, when might we get our first look at the 6 new residents, the new mice, on board, if ever? Is there a plan to share any video or photos of them?
I don't know. I'm sure that we'll see it at some point, but I don't know what the timeline is for seeing that. I know there was video of the install of the drawer today that we did not get real time, but that we were going to have played back, perhaps. But I don't know if you can see the mice or if it's just the whole box that you just see going in without any visibility to the contents inside.
Okay, let's go out to the phone bridge, and I'll call on you in the order that you called into the newsroom. Charles Atkinson, SpaceLaunchNews.com.
Thank you, Charles Atkinson, SpaceLaunchNews.com. Ron, could you discuss how easy it will be for the station's crew as they store the large equipment from Leonardo, which are destined for Tranquility in February, in the station for the next 6 months? And I have a follow-up, too.
Okay. Well, as you know, as we continue to fly more and more of these shuttle missions to station, station is getting a lot fuller. You know, in the past, we've always had a new module come up before stowage has been a problem at all. But now we're really flying the final missions here. And as you said, we are even flying equipment that goes into modules that are not there yet. So stowage is a challenge right now. Luckily for this mission, we still have enough empty spots to store hardware that is destined for other modules right now. But in a couple more shuttle flights from now, this is going to be more of a problem. So, for example, the ARS rack that goes in Node 3, we're going to put that in the gym for now, not turn it on. Then after the shuttle mission is over, we're going to swap it out with the air revitalization system rack, which is currently in the lab, and just turn on the systems in the Node 3 rack to make sure they work, and then put them back in their temporary location until Node 3 actually gets there. And then we're going to do the same thing with crew quarters rack. So the answer is it's kind of a shell game as to where to put all these racks, but right now, luckily, we have enough empty slots available.
Okay, thank you. And final question, what hazards can there be in opening up the module tomorrow morning following the dynamics of ascent?
Well, the main thing is you get a lot of vibration during ascent, and so if you had, for example, if you had a light bulb that broke during ascent, then in 0G, those glass particles are going to be floating around, and there's always concern that could get into the astronaut's eyes whenever they first open up the module.